Easter time, it always gets cool and nips the buds that's on our citrus trees.
Gotta nip it in the bud, that's what
Yeah,
Barney
nip
said.
it in the
Barney,
bud.
right?
Saw a hummingbird the other day.
Did
They
you?
always come around on multiple May and Martian it.
So you had one?
Richard said that's the scout.
Yeah. Yeah.
About a couple weeks before.
Mr. Bill, how you doing?
Doing pretty good, I guess.
How's your leg, Cindy?
They're doing
Has Lady been back?
Yeah, she's coming back in.
You're fine,
Wednesday
you're
again.
fine, no, you're fine.
Okay.
You're fine.
A little late now. Appreciate it.
Come on here, Facebook.
I don't never have trouble with my Facebook.
Yours is better than mine.
Yeah, it's non-existent.
That's right.
That's like mine.
The best way to have it.
That's exactly like mine.
I still carry the track phone.
Okay, open your Bible to begin with, to the book of Micah and the book of Daniel. Daniel and Micah. Daniel chapter 7 and Micah 5. Now I'm going to begin in Micah 5 and just refresh your mind with what we studied last week. We had a study concerning the Antichrist last week, and we looked at a number of verses in the Bible that shows us what I would call his pedigree, that is, where he will come from, what nation he will come out of. And it's found right here in Micah 5. Now, it's found in other places. In the book of Isaiah, it's mentioned a number of times, and we looked at all those last time. But here in Micah 5, it says, "Now gather thyself in troops, O daughter of troops. He hath laid siege against us. They shall smite the judge of Israel with a rod upon the cheek. But thou, Bethlehem Ephratah, though thou be little among the thousands of Judah, yet out of thee shall he come forth unto me, that is to be ruler in Israel, whose goings forth have been from old, from everlasting." Now, verse 2, as you know, is a prophecy of Jesus Christ. It's a prophecy of his birth. And it shows us exactly where he would be born or where he would come out of, and that's Bethlehem of Judea. So you got this prophecy of Christ, and not only prophesies of him and of his birth, but it tells us where he would come from or where he would be born in. Now, in verse 4, we read on down, "And he shall stand and feed in the strength of the Lord," and that's Christ, "in the majesty of the name of the Lord his God, and they shall abide, for now shall he be great," Jesus, "unto the end of the earth. And this man, Jesus Christ, shall be the peace when the Assyrian shall come into our land, and when he shall tread in our palaces. Then shall we raise against him 7 shepherds and 8 principal men, and they shall waste the land of Assyria with the sword, and the land of Nimrod in the entrances thereof. Thus shall he," that's Christ, "deliver us from the Assyrian when he cometh into our land, when he treadeth within our borders." Now the Assyrian in these verses is obviously the Antichrist. That's him. It's not just here in this one place. It's in the book of Isaiah, chapter 10, chapter 14, chapter 30, and also in the book of Nahum. He is called an Assyrian, and keep in mind that Assyria in the Bible. What the Bible calls Assyria is what we call today modern-day Iraq. So the Antichrist will come out of Assyria. He's not a German. He's not Hitler. He's not American. He's not, Jimmy Carter or Obama or Kissinger. He comes out of Assyria, and Assyria is modern-day Iraq. Now, turn to Daniel 7. Now, tonight, I want to talk to you about what I call his predecessors. Last week, we talked about his pedigree, where he comes from, or what nation. I want to talk to you tonight about his predecessors. And what I mean by that are the kings and kingdoms that precede him in power. The ones that precede him in power. Now, that's important to note because he cannot and will not appear under other kings and kingdoms appear before him. There is one major kingdom that is prophesied to precede the kingdom of the Antichrist. And once you see what that kingdom is, then you'll have a fuller understanding of where the Antichrist comes from and when he will come to power. Now, in Daniel chapter 7, Daniel has a vision of 4 beasts arising up out of the sea, and they're all different from one another. The first one is like a lion. The second one is like a bear. The third one is like a leopard. And the fourth beast, and that's the one we want to look at, this fourth beast, look what it says about him, verse 7. After this I saw in the night visions, and behold, a fourth beast, dreadful and terrible, and strong exceedingly, and it had great iron teeth. It devoured and brake in pieces, and stamped the residue with the feet of it, and it was diverse from all the beasts that were before it, and it had 10 horns. I considered the horns, and behold, there came up among them, the 10 horns, another little horn, before whom there were 3 of the first horns plucked up by the roots. And behold, in this horn were eyes like the eyes of a man, and a mouth speaking great things. Now, after Daniel has this vision of these 4 beasts, an angel made him to understand the vision. Look at verse 17. Here's what the angel said in 17. These great beasts, which are 4 kings which shall arise out of the earth. The Bible always interprets itself. The 4 beasts that Daniel sees arising up out of the earth represent 4 kings and kingdoms that would come to power. Now, the beast and kingdom that Daniel wanted to know the most about was the 4th one. That 4th beast, that's the one that Daniel was interested in, and that's the one we're interested in tonight. And the angel said to him about that 4th beast or 4th kingdom in verse 23, he said, the 4th beast shall be the 4th kingdom on earth, which shall be diverse from all kingdoms, and shall devour the whole earth, and shall tread it down, and break it in pieces. And the 10 horns out of this kingdom are 10 kings that shall arise, and another shall rise after them, and he shall be diverse from the first, and he shall subdue 3 kings. And he shall speak great words against the Most High, and shall wear out the saints of the Most High, and think to change times and laws, and they shall be given into his hand until a time and times, and the dividing of time. In other words, 3.5 years. But the judgment shall sit, and they shall take away his dominion, to consume and to destroy it under the end. Now, to make this simple, here's what we see. 3 kings come up out of the earth, or out of the sea even. These first 3 kings the lion and the bear, the leopard, they're past history. The lion, Daniel saw rise up out of the sea, was the kingdom of Babylon. They'd come and gone. The bear was the kingdom of Media Persia that overthrew Babylon in one night, as a matter of fact. And the leopard was the kingdom of Greece that overthrew Media Persia. One kingdom devours the other. But the fourth beast, now that's different. The fourth beast is still future. And it may be in its beginning stages right now. And the fourth kingdom, it says, will devour the whole earth, tread it down, break it into pieces. And the fourth kingdom will have 10 kings, meaning it's a joint kingdom made up of more than one nation, spread over a large portion of the world. Now, in this vision, concerning this fourth kingdom, it says that a little horn rises up among the 10 horns, kills off 3 of them, and then he takes charge of the whole kingdom. In other words, he assumes the power over all 10 kings or the 10 nations. Keep your hand here in Daniel and go back to Revelation. John writes about this himself. John 17. I mean, not John, Revelation, written by John. John 17. Verse 12. John 17:12. And the 10 horns which thou sawest are 10 kings which have received no kingdom as yet, but receive power as kings 1 hour with the beast. These have one mind, and shall give their power and strength unto the beast. Now those 10 kings right there are the same 10 found in Daniel chapter 7. And the beast here is the same beast in Daniel 7, is the Antichrist. For God had put it in their hearts. Look at verse 17. Did I read verse 13? Let me read it. These have one mind, and shall give their power and strength unto the beast. And look at verse 17. For God had put it in their hearts to fulfill his will and to agree, and give their kingdom unto the beast. Unto the words of God shall be fulfilled. So you can see here the 10 kings in this 10-nation kingdom give their power unto the beast, the Antichrist, and they give it to him under force. I mean, he just takes it away from them, so they hand it over to him. And after they hand it over to him, he alone runs the show over the 10 kings and over all the world that they have just trampled underfoot. Now go back to Daniel 7:25. Now this is about the little horn of the Antichrist. Daniel 7:25. And he shall speak great words against the Most High, and shall wear out the saints of the Most High, and think to change times and laws, and they shall be given into his hand until time and times, and the dividing of time. And verse 21 says, Daniel 7, and the same horn made war with the saints, and prevailed against them. Now the little horn here in Daniel 7 is obviously the Antichrist, who will rule 3.5 years and make war on the saints. But his kingdom, like the rest, will eventually be destroyed. You see, look at verse 11. Daniel 7:11. I beheld then, because of the voice of the great words which the horn spake. I beheld even to the beast, that's the Antichrist, was slain, and his body destroyed and given to the burning flame. Now keep your hand here, Daniel, and look at Revelation again, and I'll show you where verse of Daniel 7:11 is fulfilled. It's Revelation chapter 20. Make that Revelation 19. Revelation 19:20. And the beast, that's the Antichrist, was taken, and with him the false prophet that wrought miracles before him, with which he deceived them that had received the mark of the beast, and them that worship his image. These both were cast alive into a lake of fire burning with brimstone. And the remnant were slain with the sword of him that sat upon the horse, which sword proceeded out of his mouth, and all the fowls were filled with their flesh. Now Daniel said, I beheld then, because the voice of great words which the horn spake, I beheld even to the beast was slain, and his body destroyed and given to the burning flame. Well, you see that right here in Revelation 19. He ends up in the lake of fire, eventually. Now, go back to Daniel 7. Now, there are 2 points about the Antichrist in this vision that I want to emphasize tonight more than any other. And when you see what these 2 points are, you'll see when and where he will come to power. Now we know he'll reign for 3.5 years. It says so, Revelation. But when and where? Well, the Antichrist kingdom comes to power after the 4th kingdom has been in power. Now look at Daniel 7:24. 7:24. And the 10 horns out of this kingdom, that's the 4th kingdom, or 10 kings that shall arise, and another shall rise after them. Underline those words in your Bible. Another shall rise after them. Those 2 words. After them. And he, the Antichrist, shall be diverse from the first, and he shall subdue 3 kings. Now see what it says? He comes to power after them. That is, after the 4th kingdom comes to power, he comes up after them. Not before, but after. Also, look at verse 8. He comes to power among them. He said in verse 8, I consider the horns, and behold, there came up among them another little horn. And notice what it says. There came up among them, underline that, another little horn, before whom there were 3 of the first horns plucked up by the roots. And behold, in this horn were eyes like the eyes of a man, and a mouth speaking great things. Now these verses tell us 2 things about the Antichrist we need to know. When and where he'll come to power. He will come to power after and not before the 4th kingdom of Daniel 7 comes to power. They come to power and then him. And he will come to power among them, which means he will come to power in one of those 10 nations that comprise the 4th kingdom of Daniel 7. Now, we know from Micah 5 and also Isaiah 10, 14, and 30, and Nahum chapter 3, that the Antichrist will come to power in Assyria because he's called the Assyrian over and over again. And Assyria in the Bible is modern-day Iraq. He'll rise to power in Iraq. Now, that's important to know this because it shows us what part of the world that this 4th kingdom will be located. You see, if the Antichrist comes to power in Iraq, which he will, then Iraq must be one of the 10 nations that comprise that 4th kingdom of Daniel 7. See, the 4th kingdom that devours the earth and breaks it down includes Iraq because that's the nation and nationality of the Antichrist. And that's the nation he comes out of. Therefore, Iraq must be one of the 10. And you know, there's one thing that binds all the nations in that part of the world together. It's one thing, they all have in common, and it binds them together religiously and nationally and politically. They're all Muslim nations. That's what they are. So I believe the fourth kingdom is predominantly a Muslim kingdom, and Muslims, as you know, are famous for fighting and killing and destroying nations throughout history. So the prophecy that the fourth kingdom will devour the whole earth and shall tread it down, break it in pieces, that fits the Muslims perfectly. That's them. And you know what? You read up on the news even right now, they've just about taken over Europe. I mean, they've taken over England practically. While think about it, I don't know what they call him, the president of London, I guess he's the mayor or whatever, is a Muslim. And they control a greater part of England. They have a lot of power in Germany, in Italy, and in France. Just about all of Europe, the Muslims are just taking over slowly but surely. And they're in this country now, and their number one aim is to take this country over, and stupid Joe Biden has opened up the door to them. You know, Trump shut them down. He said that we'll not allow anybody in this country from a nation, you know, that fights against us or hates us, and that shut down all the Muslims. Biden, the first day in office, signed a decree, let them back in. He was an idiot. Well, he's blinded by the devil is what it is. He don't know what he's doing. What he's doing, paving the way for that fourth kingdom. That's what he did. So anyway, the Antichrist will come to power in Babylon. Now, I hadn't said that, but he will. And Babylon is located in Iraq. And the reason why I say he'll come to power in Babylon is because the Antichrist is called the King of the North in Daniel 11. And the King of the North is always Babylon, according to Jeremiah 25:9 and Ezekiel 26:7. When you read about the King of the North in the Old Testament scriptures, the prophets, it's not Russia, forget that. It's always the king of Babylon. That's who it is. And he is called the King of the North in Daniel chapter 11. Therefore, he's not only comes out of Iraq, but he comes out of Babylon. He'll be the king over there. Now, today, there is no city of Babylon. It just lays in ruins. You know, we talked about the fact Dresh has been to Babylon, what's left of it, and I think Shane has also. He's mentioned that. It just lays in ruins from that war. So that city has not been rebuilt, and the fourth kingdom has not come to power completely as it will in the future. He hadn't come to power yet. And keep in mind, he doesn't come to power until after that fourth kingdom comes to power. And if he comes to power as the king of Babylon, then that city's got to be rebuilt. So that shows you that his coming is way out there in the future. It's a great possibility that us older people will never see him. That is, we won't be alive when he shows up. Now, I can't say that for sure. I'd be kind of silly here to make prophecy as to when he's going to come. I just know what's got to happen before he comes. And the things that got to happen before he's come has not happened yet. These things have got to come to pass. That fourth kingdom has got to come to power. It's not here yet. Babylon has got to be rebuilt because he is the king of Babylon, the king of the north. That hadn't been done yet. So that's why I say the appearance of the Antichrist is off in the future. You know, anytime, I mean, you just read the news or Christian news, anytime something happens, you know, drastically, they say, boy, the Antichrist, he must be right around the corner. No, he's not. He's not around the corner. Now, he's coming, no doubt about it, but it's not around the corner. There's some things got to happen before he comes. Now, look over, if you would, to Revelation 13, and we'll talk about his power. I won't spend long on this point, but in Revelation 13, it shows you the kind of power that he will have. Matter of fact, his power will be threefold, and it will increase more and more during his reign. And at the end of his reign, he'll have absolute power. In chapter 13, in verse 4, verse 3, and I saw one of his heads as it were wounded to death, and his deadly wound was healed, and all the world wondered after the beast being the Antichrist. And they worshipped the dragon, that's the devil, which gave power unto the beast, the Antichrist. And they worshipped the beast, saying, Who is like unto the beast? Who's able to make war with him? Answer is nobody. And there was given him a mouth speaking great things and blasphemies, and power was given unto him to continue 42 months. And he opened his mouth and blasphemed against God, to blaspheme his name and his tabernacle, and them that dwell in heaven. And it was given unto him to make war with the saints, and to overcome them. And power was given unto him over all kindreds and tongues and nations. Now, in this chapter, the beast will have political power. It says in verse 7, and power was given him over all kindreds and tongues and nations. That's political power. He will erect his own brand of one world government. He will have religious power. In verse 12 it says, verse 11, I beheld another beast coming up out of the earth, and he had 2 horns like a lamb, and he spake as a dragon, and exercises all the power of the first beast before him, and causes the earth and them which dwell therein to worship the beast, whose deadly wound was healed. And he doeth great wonders, so that he maketh fire come down from heaven on the earth the sight of men, and deceiveth them that dwell on the earth by the means of those miracles which he had power to do in the sight of the beast, saying to them that dwell on the earth, that they should make an image to the beast, which had the wound by a sword and did live, and he had power to give life unto the image of the beast, that the image of the beast should both speak and cause that as many as would not worship the image of the beast should be killed. Worship speaks of religion, doesn't it? So, one world religion, his own brand of one world religion, the world worships him, and if not, they get killed. Him or else. And then he will have all economic power. Look at verse 16. And he causes all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or in their foreheads, and that no man might buy or sell, save he that had the mark, or the name of the beast, or the number of his name. Here is wisdom. Let he that hath understanding count the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man, and his number is 666. So in that day, a man must take the mark of the beast to buy anything or to sell anything. So that's complete financial, economic power. You can't buy anything, you can't sell anything unless you have the mark of the beast. That's economic, financial power. Religious power, political power, absolute power invested in one man. That's the way it's going to be when this guy shows up. But thank God the old boy is going to end up in a fire and he's going to burn forever. He'll never get out. Now there's one more thing that I will point out about the Antichrist right here in this same chapter. Now we've looked at his pedigree, where he comes from, Assyria. We talked about his predecessors. He's preceded by the 4th kingdom of Daniel 7, which has not come to power yet. And we talked about his power, threefold power here in Revelation 13. Now notice his prophet. He's got a prophet. Look at verse 11. We just read this. And I beheld another beast coming up out of the earth, and he had 2 horns like a lamb, and he spake as a dragon. He exercises all the power of the first beast before him, and causes the earth and them that dwell therein to worship the first beast, whose deadly wound was healed. And he doeth great wonders, so that he maketh the fire come down from heaven on the earth and the sight of men. And he deceiveth them that dwell on the earth by the means of those miracles which he had power to do in the sight of the beast, saying to them that dwell on the earth that they should make an image to the beast, which had the wound by a sword and did live. And he had power to give life unto the image of the beast. Now, this man here is called a prophet. He is the false prophet. Look at chapter 16. Chapter 16, 12. And the sixth angel poured out his vial upon the great river Euphrates, and the water thereof was dried up, that the way of the kings of the east might be prepared. And I saw 3 unclean spirits like frogs come up out of the mouth of the dragon, that's the devil, out of the mouth of the beast, the Antichrist, and out of the mouth of the false prophet. There he is. He's the false prophet of Revelation 13. And by the way, in that verse, what do you find? The satanic trinity. The dragon, the beast, the false prophet. You know, the devil always copies, counterfeits God. God the Father, God the Son, God the Spirit. Here you got the dragon, the devil, the beast, the Antichrist, and the false prophet. And that prophet, that false prophet, he is sent to prepare the way for the beast. You see, what John the Baptist was to Christ, the true Christ, the false prophet will be to the Antichrist. And he will prepare the way for the Antichrist by doing what? Miracles, signs, and wonders. Now, you know, John the Baptist did not work one sign or miracle, did he? But he prepared the way of the true Christ. But the false prophet will prepare the way for the beast by working signs, wonders, and miracles. And one of the miracles is giving life to an image. He builds an image of the beast and gives it life. And that's the devil. That's the false prophet. That's the devil himself. So the devil can work miracles, which means it's no great thing if a man can work miracles. Just because a man can work miracles don't mean that he's a man of God. The devil works miracles. The beast will work miracles. The false prophet will work miracles. In Matthew 24, Jesus said there shall be many false prophets and false Christs, and will work signs, wonders, and miracles, insomuch that it will possible they shall deceive the very elect. So, this thing about working miracles, that's no big deal. That don't prove that a man's a man of God. You know how you detect if a man is a man of God or not? By the gospel he preaches. That's how you find out who the true man of God is by the gospel he preaches. But anyway, that's the prophet of the beast, the Antichrist. We looked at his power. We looked at his predecessors, the fourth kingdom. And we've seen his pedigree. He comes out of Assyria. The Bible has a lot of information about the Antichrist. And when you hear what people say about the Antichrist today, you learn something real quick. They're not reading the Bible. If they read the Bible, they would not make the silly statements they make about the Antichrist. And this idea of every time some bad guy rises up, they say, well, he must be the Antichrist. People that say that are not reading the Bible. They should know better. And if you could point, and they point to someone today and say, there he is, he's here. No, he's not. He can't be here. That fourth kingdom is not here yet. Babylon not rebuilt yet. And not only that, there's no temple in Jerusalem either, is it? You say, what does that got to do with anything? Well, doesn't he sit down in it and say, I'm God? It says so in Thessalonians, doesn't it? Yes, it does. All right, we'll stop right there tonight.